going on in the country, all of that stuff still has to go. So the president can't be shut. He can't shut us down. You know what I'm saying? He can get in the way, but he couldn't shut us down. He couldn't shut me down. He couldn't really affect what I'm doing. He can only help me make more money by the way he is.
Got you.
But I think what I would do with these individuals, I personally would start a group and get on a Zoom and like on the weekend or when the majority of when everybody has free time, we're gonna go through there. So I'm not gonna leave them behind because that's the main thing everybody does. Everybody gets the money
Right.
and then they go.
Right.
So for with the time and they invested, what I'm working on is testimonies. So I'm setting the play up for the big play. I got visions of, a class 50, 100, 200 people. So once I hit that, I'm gonna use them to get me to that. You know what I'm saying? Once you show you're proven and people are talking about, and then they can actually show you how, hey, come in my business. Hey, who taught you that? Hey, these people over here did that. And then now we could just get on it once a month, once every 60 days. Our cost will be that cost that they're all begging for only because we're not leaving them behind. Like people are paying big money. People have been hit for thousands already with no results.
Just to let y'all know, we are live on YouTube.
So
Right
if there's
now.
any
Yep.
questions you want me to elaborate on as far as what I'm bringing to the table, what I'm facilitating, shoot them.
Now you were also talking about the FD the FD cards,
Yes, the FD 258s. Yes.
and you also said you're gonna be providing a link so they can order, like if they have to get their ink and the cards and the corn huskers from the crime scene store.
Yeah, so I will be providing an affiliate link with a discount and it will be to the crime scene store located in Arizona. And what they can do is they can go on there, get all their supplies at a fraction of the cost compared to other vendors. And yeah,
And I also think um but so we're gonna talk about the regular ink card fingerprinting. You also said you're gonna be mentioned about the digital, the with the live scan machine. That's what you have.
yes, I have a live scan machine, and I also do ink roll fingerprinting. So on the ink roll fingerprinting, what you're experiencing and what I'm seeing across the nation right now is that a lot of people are training individuals on the FD 258 cards. And I'm not going to call it misleading because they might not know, but there's at least 10 other cards or scenarios that I experienced that I feel as though if you're a fingerprint technician, you should know these things
So they have
because,
more than one card.
yeah, they have more than one. So, what I've just learned in the last 10 days, and I just put it on my TikTok today, and they're going crazy over it. We learned that New Jersey has their own state card. I learned New Jersey has their own state card. And it's very different from the standard FD 258 card. They have what they call an SBI-19. They want that. They ask for extra data, extra information that's not on that FD 258 card. Then you have Maryland, you have Michigan, then you have Florida, then you have Arizona has their own rules and regulations. So it's just you got to be mindful of the different states and rules and regulations. And a lot of the times you're not going to experience it. Two individuals come in with the actual instructions and the cards telling you what they need. And that's how I basically found out. I was finding out a lot of things firsthand. So when I see others promoting, I know if they've been through there or not. I start asking questions, and a lot of times they don't even know what I'm talking about. So
Now,
I
I'm
can
sorry, go
break
ahead.
down the ORI, the MDORI, the SBI-19. I could break all that down. You're probably not going to find too many people that can do that.
You was also mentioning that you also have information about how to do the California. You said California has a special way of doing their information, correct?
Yeah, California is the strictest in the nation from what I've seen so far. They're very detailed in what they want. I mean, you can't leave a letter out or they're gonna reject it. And then if I had to rate it, I'm gonna rate New Jersey number two. After what I just experienced and all the information that they want, you can't even make a mistake on the New Jersey card. So they have like fingerprinting correction tabs.
Yeah.
You can use them on the FD258. And I still, I don't even know, I don't believe a lot of individuals don't even know how many of them tabs you're allowed to use on the FD258. New
Now I think
Jersey
you
is,
can only use two of them, right? Two or three.
it's two,
Okay,
one in each row.
one on each row.
Yeah, one on each row. And then New Jersey, it's none of that. They want a perfect card.
So, do you know about how many fingerprinting jobs you've done? In total, like, and it's all the time you've been doing fingerprinting.
I have to be honest with you. I've been I've been doing it for 3 years. I have I definitely have over 750 different individuals that I've had fingerprinted, whether it was ink roll or a live scan. That's a combination of both. But a lot of my work has been live scan. A lot of it's been live scan, and I've learned a lot there.
I wanted to ask you that because a lot of times we get people that's in the community, they want to go and they want to start and they want to jump out and they see that the money is in the training and also in being able to show people, but they don't have the experience. So that's why I wanted to ask about how many you've done, because you ask them and they be like, oh, I did 5. But you want to train me how to do it, but you only did what, 5? Like, wait a minute, hold up. So that's why I wanted to ask you, like, how many have you done? So that and when you say about 700, we're talking about the ink roll and the digital, like, all together.
Yes, it's a combination. Yep, it's a combination of predominantly a lot of it is live scan. And the reason why it was live scan, I was working with a company, which was a hospice care company, had a lot of volunteers and they had a lot of workers. They're like the biggest in my region and between Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. They're the biggest hospice care facility. So they was booking me monthly. So every month, like for the last 12 months, they had 4 facilities that they would have me come to once a week. So it was, I was busy. I was slammed with work. Um, I think when it comes to the fingerprinting, a lot of people need to know and understand. I view it 3 ways. I view it ink roll, digital partnership, and then digital independent. You're gonna have on the partnership side, I chose not to go that route. I don't like to pay that they're willing to share. But on the independent side, that's where that's where I made my name. I made my name on the independent side because I can do Florida live scans from Rhode Island. I can create what they call a ATF EFT file. So a lot of individuals don't know when they go purchase firearms and their fingerprinting cards are getting rejected. The ATF is asking for that EFT file. I'm the only one in my area that creates that. Um, I can do non-US citizen background checks. I mean, it's no limit to what I can do, seeing that I do ink and digital.
When you say non-citizens, how does that work? If they don't necessarily have a lot of institutional data, or like that. How if you're born here, the county has some documents on you. If Social Security might have some documents on you. The state might have documents on you because you've gone to school here or stuff like that. So how do you do that for a non-citizen? Or when you say non-citizen, you are you referring to permanent residents, not necessarily undocumented?
When I say non-US citizen, anyone who's not a citizen. So a lot of them calls I get from immigration attorneys. And what happens is whatever situation that that individual is experiencing, they have to come in, present an ID, and I can only live scan them in. I live scan them in under the non-US citizen background check. And what they do is I capture their prints, it creates a file, sends it to the FBI, and the FBI will then go check that country of origin that they submit, and they do their process that way. I don't get no results back. They would receive their results email only. And then they would take that email only result and present it to their immigration attorney, who then goes presents it to the courts and begins the process of whatever. I don't know if they're filing for citizenship. I don't know if they're filing for a visa. I just don't know what they're actually needed for. I just know what they come in for. And I get a lot of those. I get a lot of those. I probably get about 5 to 7 a month.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So the fingerprinting is something that you can definitely say that those who have the capital to invest into that, they will surely see an ROI.
I I would my experience, um, if you I would always recommend go ink roll first, because the digital is gonna run you anywhere from, let's say, 6,000 and up, just depending on the software, who you went through to purchase it. And with the ink roll, you get into it for pennies on the dollar. I mean, ink roll, you can get into ink roll for under $80, but that return on that investment is it's like no other. I never experienced nothing like that. And what I mean by experience, where I was in a situation where I purchased thousands fingerprinting cards, and I ended up paying less than 25 cents per fingerprinting card. I then turned around and sold it for $75 per card. So my markup, my profit, it was a no-brainer. This is where I'm going to stay. I'm going to stay here. I'm not going nowhere else. And a lot of people, once you understand how to market it, that revenue is different. It's different. I never seen nothing like that as far as 25 cents, $75. I never seen nothing like that. So then what I did was I had that. I went on a run. I was pretty much the only one that did it in my area. I went on a run, and then I just went and purchased the live scan system. Now, once I purchased the live scan system, it just opened me up to 12 different avenues of making money. 12 different avenues as far as like I do FINRA, anyone on Wall Street, anyone working in the banking industry, their background checks are a little bit different. So they also have a certain fingerprinting card that they use for them as well. Then I'm doing, like I stated, I'm doing the non-US citizen background check. I'm doing email only departmental orders. I'm doing next day only. I'm doing apostilles out of my live scan system. I'm doing EFT, ATF files for the ATF, for the guns, the firearms. I'm doing it's just a lot going on inside of that. So once you get to the live scan and you incorporate it with the ink fingerprinting, depending on how you're set up, the only thing you wouldn't be able to do is a lot of people, when they get into the live scan, they think that they can just go and do like state and federal employees for their state. That's not how it's set up. But you would have to partner up with like Field Print, TSA. They're the ones who do the fingerprinting for the teachers. They're the ones who do like the federal fingerprinting. I don't do none of that work. All my work is around that. Like I'll do students, doctors, anyone applying for a license or need a background check, like the Florida Live Scan. I get a lot of that now. You don't have to go to Florida. You can come to me from my location. I could submit your background check to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They then take that file, run your prints, and with that ORI, they'll send it to the agency that's requesting that background check from you. So it's very flexible. I wouldn't say lucrative. I'll call it, instead of lucrative, it's very, I don't want to say lucrative because I don't want someone to think they get in today, all of this is coming. That's not how it's set up. Once you get known, you will be that source of contact from Florida. I would say, hey, I always ask, how did you find me? They say, no, the place down in Florida, they looked it up. You're the only one that does it. So even when you look in your area, just Google Florida live scans, and you're probably going to see less than 5 individuals that do it.
One thing I wanted to say is that you had fascinated me when you said that you could do an apostille. I'm like, wait, how do you do the apostilles? You
Yeah. So how you get into the aposties is that you just have to, how I get into it, the process for it is individuals will be traveling abroad, individuals will be applying for dual citizenship, or people will just be applying for citizenship in another country. So them other countries will require a FBI background check. So when they require that FBI background check, that's not nothing you can just go hand your ID. They want the fingerprints. So the individuals come in, I'll live scan them in, and I always ask because it becomes normal practice. Hey, do you need this apostille? A lot of people don't even know. They're like, well, I don't know. I seen that word on the paper. So I'm like, oh yeah, if you need this apostille, I'm glad you said something now because if you had to come back, it was going to cost you pretty much double of what you can get out of it right now for. So when they come in, all I have to do is they'll ask me, does this need to be apostille? I'll put yes. They'll ask me the country of origin. If it's a Hague country, then it's Hague. If it's non-Hague, then they'll still apostille it. And then after that, I just have to bring it, I have to direct them to the consul. Or I can do it myself and make the revenue off that. But that's what happens. They come in, get fingerprinted, and then when their report comes back, they themselves just upload that file into the apostille email that they're going to be sent, and then everything just comes to them within 14 days.
and that's a part of live scan.
That's part of the live scan.
Yeah, I didn't even know that
Yeah, that's
until we
part
were
of the live
talking
scan.
about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just, I did my market research on the different vendors and distributors that have this type of equipment, and I found one, and I would recommend it to anyone. I just don't see paying for a service that I don't know what it's going to do for me. So, some distributors slash vendors, they may sell that Florida live scan part, they may sell that for 800 on the year versus the company I went with is going to say, well, you know what? We're not going to charge you 800 a year. We're going to charge you, let's say, $80 per service you use that. So it's always in my system, and they may just charge me $80 every time I do an apostille. Them are not the real numbers. I'm just giving an example. So I found it best to pay as I go versus pay and not know. So I've done a lot of research in this fingerprinting industry, so I'm not going to call myself the leader of it, but I do have a lot of knowledge of it to where if you come and attend this event, you probably would have way more knowledge than someone who's actually been doing it for 2 years and not really taking it serious. Because a lot of people just get in, set up their profiles on Google, and the business comes in, and that's all they do. Like I can ask 5 questions and know what's going on with you. That's how deep in it I am. I'm nosy. So I want to know if you know something I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind sharing, it just depends on the atmosphere where I'm at with it. So that's my experience with it. I mean, you're definitely able to scale. It's not something you start off ink roll, it's not something you would be disappointed in. You're gonna get a call. It's like, you can market it. I mean, you can market it anywhere. You can market it to the hospitals, police station. You can become a vendor for the police station. They don't like in my area, they don't like to do the ink roll.
Hmm.
They're like, hey, I got your number down at the police station. I ain't been in there. How my number get down there? So it's like, I just be surprised. Like right now, I got to call the TSA. I got to tell them, take my information down off the site. We don't conduct any business. I'm getting people calling me, hey, you do hazmat. Like, it's no limit to who needs this service. Everyone needs it. It's just how do you come across it?
That's one thing. Like when I started with the notary, people say, "Who is your target audience?" And I'm like, everybody. Everybody need a notary. So so like if somebody came to you and asked you, "Who's your target audience?" That that you're trying to get to come in, for fingerprinting.
My target audience is anyone that's applying for a position, a job position, a license, and it's out of town. Because my state's a closed state, so to do business within this state, I'm gonna have to get certain permissions, certifications, and with all of that, my state just doesn't allow it right now. They're not allowing it. So my niche, my people of interest are people purchasing firearms, people traveling out of the country, um, trucking schools, nursing schools, universities, colleges. Um, yeah, that them my people that I target right there.
Well, I personally know that you're a notary, so all of those overlap also.
Yeah, they overlap.
A lot of those overlap, with the HR and stuff, so doing I-9s and I know we talk about the DOT, and I know you do, when you do the urine testing and everything. So like that overlaps. So when someone is getting a job, they might need to have the urine test. They might need to be fingerprinted. They might need I-9s done. And right there, they got all of that under the umbrella coming to you.
Yeah, so the way I personally look at it, after all my experiences, and I just came to this conclusion probably about the top of the year. If you're a notary, if you're doing RON, if you're doing specimen collection, these are the type of services you want to have all in one because what it does is turns you into a compliance officer. So when you become the compliance officer, you are the demand. They can't do anything without you. Even if they don't like you, they have to deal with you because of the services that you provide. And a lot of people stay stuck in their ways. Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. I'm not. that. Only if they knew the revenue they was missing. This could easily turn into six figures. Easily. When I say easily, if you put it together right and you be patient, it can turn into six figures. The fingerprinting alone is definitely. If you're anyone want to know, like there's weeks where I'm making 1,700. There's months where I'm making 11,000. Out of that 11,000, I may only have to pay out 3,200. The rest is mine. So it's like, I do what makes sense for me. I'm ROI guy. I'm return on investment. I usually don't touch a business or a lane unless it's 300% markup or better. I'm not, I don't see no need to go play risk anywhere else. This is the lane I'm going to be in. I'm staying in this lane.
But you also have a brick and mortar where people come in to see you. You do both, like mobile, and you have them
Yeah,
come to your office.
yeah. All my services are brick and mortar and mobile. Brick and mortar and mobile. So even recently, I added another certification. I'm also a breath and alcohol technician. So I added that. And what that does now is the average specimen, it gives me leverage over the average specimen collector. But the average specimen collector, they're just collecting that specimen. But now let's say we got a post accident, someone was seriously injured, or even, someone died. Now I can pull up, do the BAC, let them know what their breath alcohol content level was. And then let's say if a person blows the first time and they fail, I'll wait 15 minutes. My device will make me wait 15 minutes and I'll come back and I'll have them blow again. That second test is called a confirmation. And that's the test that's going to overrule all. So the first one, you failed. The second one, if you pass, pass. It is what it is. But when you get into compliance, you realize all these could be sitting under one roof.
So you said that if a person get into an accident or somebody dies, you would actually deal with someone that passed away?
No. So what
Okay.
happens is when you're doing specimen collecting, there's two sides of it. You have the DOT side, Department of Transportation, and then you have your non-DOT. So on the Department of Transportation, that is individuals with CDLs. That's most likely anyone that's driving a 18-wheeler and anything over a box truck would be CDL, whether it's class A, B. And then what happens is they have rules and regulations that they have to abide by as a driver. So, like in your average state, well, in my state, it's 0.08 before you're considered over the limit of drinking when you blow into the machine. But on the DOT side, it's 0.20. So, and what happens is if a driver is in an accident and it could be reasonable suspicion, a person just may not be functioning properly according to a supervisor and may call me in and say, hey, I want this guy tested because, in the workplace, you're dealing with forklifts, you're dealing with a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of heavy machinery, and they can't afford no accidents. So before they have an accident, they'll rather you see what's going on with this individual. And a lot of the times there be nothing going on with individuals. A lot of times they do. So, but if I was called to like a post accident, an accident on the highway, and let's say someone died, that driver has to he has to blow, and I have to collect the urine from him, and still in that lane. So like I would set it up $100 mobile fee. Let's say if it's after 5 o'clock, $100 after hour fee, then 70 cents per mile to and from, then whatever I'm charging for my initial screening on the breath and alcohol, which would probably be, I'll throw a number out there, let's say $30. And then if they failed that test, Then we'd have to go into the second test, the confirmation test. It's going to be another $30. And then I would do the specimen collect. I would collect the urine. So that could be anywhere from $80 and up. And then if it's a Sunday, if it's a holiday, then it's up to you to use your discretion on how you want to market, how you want to sell it, how you want to upsell it. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a lot of different ways. For me, it's a lot of different ways.
Now, another thing is when you were talking about the urine collection in your office, do you have to have the bathroom set up a certain way?
Yes, yes. So what happens when you're doing specimen collect? You as the collector want to always make sure that that the specimen isn't altered in any way. So how I set my bathrooms up is when I go in if you was to come in my bathroom, you would notice that the toilet water is blue. That's from a bluing agent that I use. You would notice that the toilets are turned off, the sinks turned off. Then I put tampered evidence tape on the turn off valve on the toilet and on the sink and on the knobs on the sink. Um, if there's like a towel dispenser in there, I would cover that with a clear bag, tape that off. If there's a garbage in there, I would remove the garbage out of it. I would remove the trash out of the bathroom, and then I would just check like the vent in the ceilings, and I would check the vents on the floor, and then I would give that individual 4 minutes to produce that urine.
I did that's so you have so much and that's what I was trying to say. You have a lot of great information, and that's why I wanted people to hear you and listen to you speak and stuff because you're real passionate about it. Between the ink roll, between the machines and the information, you have a lot of great information. And this is just the tip of the iceberg because we didn't talk for hours. So I do appreciate you with that and answering my questions. And I thank you because I learned a lot just talking to you. And whenever we go in the clubhouse into the different rooms, everybody, wait a minute. You say they always hitting you up afterwards and calling you because you have a lot of good information. We just got to get it out there so everybody can see. You have that you got some stuff to say. And you said you're certified to be able to train them with the
Yeah,
DOT.
yeah, I'm qualified trainer. So yeah, I'm able to take on groups. It doesn't matter how large or small the group is. I'm able to train them and get them qualified so that way they are doing these things in the correct way. So they're not, coming back with fatal flaws, have to do, correction trainings, things like that. And it's very important because for me, I take my trainings very seriously because when you start to deal with the federal side of things, that's where you really could get in trouble if you're skipping any process in the steps, you can land yourself to some serious trouble. So,
Now, no,
I
you
get
were
it.
saying with the federal, you deal it, so you deal more on the federal level because I know you said your state is closed.
Yeah, on a federal level for the DOT, Department of Transportation is federal.
Okay.
And then you have your non-DOT. But on the DOT side, Department of Transportation, because it's federal, if you commit a crime or if a crime's committed, it's federal. So, and a lot of the times, what happens is when you look at, when you look, you're going to probably look at the highway different now. But when you're on a highway, just imagine how many trucks you see, how many of them trucks could run you right over in your vehicle. So now we're not even talking 26,000 pounds. Some of these trucks be having, 50,000 pounds, 70,000 pounds. So just imagine if someone was on heroin, someone was on fentanyl, and they're nodding with that, driving that, and they're nodding. That's not what you want. So a lot of the times in certain situations, individuals, the drivers know what they be doing, so they try to come in with the manipulation and offer me X amount of dollars, and I just turn it down. because for one, that's not a professional way to conduct business. And two, I don't never want to be responsible for any fatalities. Because when the investigation goes down, they're going to know. Because when that specimen goes to the lab, there's things that they can detect that they don't, the average person don't even know. Like I tell people, some labs, like I'll give you an example of what they have going on now. On the DOT side, they're not punishing, well, they're not being punished for having fentanyl because that's not what they're looking for. And the DOT is 5 panel. So in the 5 panel, it's going to be probably marijuana, heroin, and there's like three others that they're looking for, but fentanyl's not in there. But what the laboratories are noticing is that the fentanyl trace is coming up in a lot of these urines. So what is the government looking to do? Looking to add the fentanyl inside the panel. So now at some point, the fentanyl is going to be added to the panel, and then they're going to be taking away the urine part. They're going oral to where it's on site with it. So once this second laboratory opens up that can take on the confirmations, that's where we heading.
So you got the DOT training and you do DNA too.
Yeah, so I do DNA, recognized as an international specimen collection for DNA, and there's a certain way you go about that to get that. I will be sharing that there at the business, the one-stop shop, businesses in the box. I won't, I'm not going to mention it on here, but I will share it there. Um, and pretty much with DNA, there's really no certification on it. There's no certification on it as far as like, yeah, you got to have it, you got to have that. However, if you want to be able to do business with certain businesses or entities, they're going to require certain qualifications. And that is the difference. That's the difference all around. So, you personally, if you want to open up your own DNA business, you could partner with a DNA lab and, conduct it. They're probably going to put you through the training to make sure and that you know what you're doing and you understand the process and the steps. But if you really want to take it to the next level and separate yourself from the average collector, then if you attend this event, January 3rd and 4th, I will be sharing all of that. And still,
Yeah,
a lot of people in this industry don't know it. I didn't even know it. I ran into it on an accident.
yeah, like I said, just sitting listening to you, speaking and stuff, and I'm like, wow, like so much. Like I was like, this right here, this information, like, and you even said like, that's thousands of dollars, and you saying, a couple of hundred for a couple of hours, and to be able to share and give out this information, we appreciate you. You also said you're going to be giving out handouts and certain stuff. And you also said that you're going to help the person make sure that they're able to get that certification if they come and pay through the training.
Yeah, so I've been in this industries for 3 years now. And across all the industries, you're hearing the same noise. I've been qualified. I've been certified. I did this training. What do I do next? So I always ask them, as you personally know, we was on Clubhouse and I got to asking individuals and they're like, oh, I paid this. I said, huh? You gonna pay me that? They could have gave me $100 and I would have just,
Yeah.
put them in the right area. But what happens is a lot of people are finding a way to generate revenue and they're exercising it. I can't be mad at them, but I'm not gonna move that way. I believe in I believe in if I'm doing something, I'm going to give it to you A through Z. I'm not going to leave you stuck on the island. That's why I previously mentioned you'll leave confident and ready. And how you'll leave confident and ready, you'll understand that the support, the guidance, and the correction and what we are engaging in as far as, the one-stop shop, those courses that are in there, all the facilitators are willing to go above and beyond and still work with you even when you leave. I think that is the most important part. Like showing up and being there, yeah, that's good, but everybody knows in areas where you're just stepping into, you're gonna need that support. You're gonna need that knowledge. I'm gonna share my mistakes so they don't make those same mistakes. And that's cutting out at least 80% of the problems. So when you look at what this course is going for versus individually, if you look at them courses, what people are charging, it's a win-win. It's a no-brainer. It's it's really something you don't want to miss if you have it. If you have the revenue, I say come join us. You know, come join us and let the world see the making of a monster. That's what I'm gonna say. Because when it comes to the ink roll fingerprinting, you could be 10 years old and do it. There's nothing that's saying you have to be 18. There's nothing that's saying you have to be 21. These are things people don't know. These are things that, you could begin to create generational wealth. Instead of going to hire somebody, it's a family thing, or the money stay in the pot. It could be something as simple as that. Now, when it comes to notary, when it comes to DOT, when it comes to the live scan fingerprinting, those have age restrictions on it. At least in my state, they have restrictions on it. But ink roll, I have yet to see anything from the government that says, "Hey, you need to be 18." As long as you understand the process and you can roll them fingers edge to edge, why not?
Right. No, but thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. And you said you have handouts and everything to send everybody about each of the things you're going to be going over. Information, to get them prepped before so they can start reading.
Yeah, so anyone that decides to attend this 2-day event, they'll be receiving PDFs. Some of the PDFs will be giving them insight on what they will be going through, um, techniques. I will be sharing different what different state cards look like, just so they're familiar with it. And then I will be reviewing them cards, going over those cards in the course, so that way when they get to that point, they could just fill it right out. They'll understand. They'll know once they see it and they know. Um, yeah, I'll just be giving a lot. I'm gonna be sharing a lot of knee deep secrets. I mean, this is what other people are charging for.
You said the different states cards. Are the different states cards on the same crime scene website, or you got to go different places,
Yeah,
or does the person bring them with them if it's for a different state?
a lot of the times they'll bring it with them because whoever they're communicating with will say, "Hey, well, we need you to do this," because a lot of the times individuals are going to be out of state. The issue is that when you're looking at it state to state, you can't live scan into every state. Only certain entities can because of their network. But if you're in, let's say, Colorado and I'm here in Rhode Island, I don't have a way to live scan that individual win. So now we go back to the old standard practice of enroll. And what happens is to obtain them cards, you're usually going to get it from the state that's requiring that. So I will be reaching out to New Jersey. I will be reaching out to Maryland. I will be reaching out to Arizona. And yeah, so a lot of the times, like the crime scene, you're gonna get, well, what I've seen on the crime scene where I purchase items, they do have the FD 258 and they do have the FINRA cards. Now the FINRA cards is for, people that work on Wall Street, people that work in banking, financial, things like that. You'll find that on there, but when it comes to individual state cards, you usually got to get it from that state. Like in Florida, they have county cards. Like I've experienced that. So yeah, so you like what happens is individuals will catch a DUI when they're going to get that expunged off their record. they won't produce a FD 258. They'll give them a regular piece of paper and say, get fingerprinted on this. But yeah, I'd experienced it all, not at all, a lot of it. And there's still a lot more I ain't seen. I'm quite sure. I'm in a mixed city, so I get a lot of different traffic. So with that traffic, that's what's helping me gain more industry knowledge. So even when I go on my TikTok and I release, like I just be playing with them, just releasing information, and everybody's glued, like, hey, oh, thank you for sharing that. How did you? They just be in the inbox. You know what I'm saying? They'd be like, I give some of the people, I give them the information. Some of them I make them go do the homework. I'm not gonna give everything.
Right.
You know? So yeah, on that note, yeah.
So I want to say thank you again. I want to ask Misael to come so I can ask him some questions. And thank you very much because very knowledgeable. And I can't wait to see what else you bring when we have the one-stop shop business in the box. Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm here.
You want to introduce yourself? Say your name.
My name is can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Get closer. Okay. Hi, my name is Misael Montas. I'm the managing member of SE Services LLC, and I'm a tri-state notary out of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And I have several expertise, I would say niche, and one of them is remote online notarizations and remote notarizations for paper-based notarizations, and again, remote online notarizations for paperless digital signatures.
Now, you say it different, because sometimes we hear people say wrong and you're saying paper-based, so you got to explain that. Why you say it like that?
So RON is typically remote online notarizations, depending on how your state has titled the provision that speaks about signing documents electronically. And those are typically referred to as remote online notarizations, and they do not require printing. So that's why I refer to it as paperless. And then you have remote notarizations, which involves paper-based notarizations with wet ink signature.
I don't know. It's kind of funny when you say wet ink signature, and the remote ones, so differentiated between the two. It's a little, it sounds a little funny.
Well, the one thing is that for the most part, in many of the states that allow the remote ink notarizations, they typically don't call it that. They typically refer to it as a remotely located individual transaction in respect to a tangible record. And that typically requires a hard copy of the document and a wet signature on that said document. So that's a distinction between a PDF digital file that's going to be electronically notarized with electronic signatures and electronic or digital seal.
So I have to ask you, like I asked Daniel, I asked him like about how many has he done? Like, can you pin down about how many remote ink and the RON, how many you've done?
I would say I'm in the quite in the thousands. I cannot give you a specific number, but I started out with remote ink notarizations, because that's what was authorized during COVID as an executive order for all the 3 states that I'm commissioning in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut at the time. They were authorized, remote notarizations were authorized via an executive order. And I mean, I started out doing hundreds, I mean, a lot of remote ink notarizations out of New York. And then once the law was enacted, we had a period where the executive order ended. So we could no longer do remote ink notarizations. But then we had a period from the day that the remote online notarization law was enacted to the day that it was going to be effective. And as far as the credentials and requirements that a e-notary needed to have in order to be compliant. So during that time, I began to do more paperless digital electronic notarizations. And from 2022 to now, 3 years later, I've done, I would say, over 2,000. I've done a lot. I've done a lot, I would say.
No, I like to ask because to show that you're knowledgeable. Like I said, we have a lot of people out here when it comes down to trainers and wanting to do these different things. They come to the table and they want people to pay them and they want to do these different, sell these links and ebooks and all of that. I just want to make sure that they can see, you're not new to this. Y'all have been in the game, you've done, quite a bit. This is not your first time. So you know all the ins and outs and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. There's quite a few things that I have had to figure out on my own as I encountered different scenarios. Now, I had the fundamentals from the executive order to the laws that were enacted in New Jersey and New York. And just as recently as 2024, Connecticut was able to enact, they implemented remote notarizations, which is a wet ink version of executing a document remotely. And during that time, I've encountered a very diverse set of service requests, and I've utilized remote notarizations as an alternative notarial solution to be able to accommodate signers, to be able to accommodate clients, vendors, hiring companies, to be able to provide notarial solutions for their clients. And I think I'm a strong advocate for the notary laying out all of their powers and duties and services that they can provide, so that they won't let go of the bag, so that they can retain the business.
Yeah, because I've learned a lot from you, because you showed me so much, at the end of the day when it comes to the remote ink notarizations and the remote online notarizations. Now you also do this internationally, right?
I also service those who are internationally located, and there's 2 requirements for that. One is that either the signer is a resident of the United States, or and that can be nuanced, that portion, or, and just to be general, or the document is going to be used in the United States, even though that signer is remotely located abroad and they don't necessarily live in the United States. But if said document is slated to be used in the United States, then that will qualify for me as a remote online notary to be able to conduct those transactions, and also for remote ink notarizations as well. That would be the case.
You do have some challenges though when you're trying to do this. Like with people that are not familiar with technology, that might hold it
Well,
up.
so that's the one thing that I'll be speaking about in the One Stop Shop Businesses in a Box conference, is where we're going to be talking about the fact that although it's a two-tier aspect, tier one is that you have to familiarize yourself with your state electronic notary or remote notarization laws. That's one. And then second is being able to get familiar with the platform of choice that's compliant with your state, how to navigate their platform, their portal, and their tool sets for you to be able to conduct the remote online notarizations. And many times they provide videos on how to do certain things on their platforms, and you want to be able to share that with the signers so that they can so that you can assist them with troubleshooting any technical difficulties they're having.
Yeah, because I can understand with someone who is technology challenged, trying to sign it and everything, it's convenient, but it has its challenges. Or if they don't have like a great stable reception as far as the Wi-Fi and everything, that could be a challenge.
So those are like external elements that the signer has to be capable of mitigating themselves. But I can't control whether they're using a Wi-Fi, whether they're using an Ethernet, whether they are at a public place and they're using a public place Wi-Fi, or they're at home where the structure of their building or where they are situated doesn't allow for a consistent reception to be able to conduct the notarization. So that's one thing that I always let them know, like, hey, you got to make sure that your connection is 100%. But as far as troubleshooting issues with the platform, that can also be out of the control of the notary public. Why? Because if you remember, Laura, there was one time that we were doing a mock signing on Notarize, aka Proof, and you had difficulty with being able to pass the identity verification, and that was because the third-party verifier that the platform used were giving you issues as to whether your the picture of your ID was coming out too blurry, and they kept asking you to retake. And then even when you retook the picture, then when you got on the platform, it would still tell me that it wasn't a clear picture, that I wasn't able to click on complete to verify that I was able to check the identity verification report. And those are platform challenges. And that's why I will always say that all electronic notaries, all online notaries need to have multiple platforms in case you encounter technical difficulties out of your control on one platform. Then you can just go ahead and try to move on to another one that might not be that might not give you those issues.
for you, how many are you currently on, if I may ask?
I'm officially and unofficially, I would say in total, it might be like, I would say like 6, but officially and actively, I'm on 3.
Got you.
That I'm most likely to use would be 3, but I do have another 4 that should I've encountered issues with any of the top 3 platforms that I use, I can lean on those, and I do have a profile with them, and I can utilize those platforms. And I'm also looking for additional platforms to accommodate remote wet signatures notarizations. That's been a difficult search, even though there are some platforms out there that state that they do provide that feature. I find them personally not to be compliant, but they're partially compliant, not wholeheartedly compliant. So that's one thing that I'm still, trying to figure out. I have given those platforms a call so that I can have a conversation with them regarding those concerns that I have, and hopefully I'll be able to promote a compliant platform in the near future.
So you said you reached out to them, so like to tell them so they could try to get some time to get everything together so they can become compliant. That's what you're saying?
Not necessarily. So there's one platform in particular that I was told that they do provide REN. They're REN remote ink notarization compliant. And when I went to them and I saw some of their materials on the topic, it did not seem compliant. Then I attended a demo where they claimed that they were going to overview REN, and they did not at all. So I'm just waiting for to have that conversation when we during the business week, to be able to address those concerns.
Got you. And you study, you study diligently, meaning that you don't just do the regular, you go outside and get more information. You always looking to attain more information about the subject to keep yourself abreast of the different changing laws.
Absolutely. So one of the things is that there is a very cliche phrase that is commonly used in the notary community. And because thanks to the online aspect, the internet, we're able to congregate online, and we do have notary spaces where people from multiple states congregate. And a lot of times our notary powers and duties slightly vary per state. So there's always a nuance, a variant per state. And one of the things that is typically said is that adhere primarily to your state laws. However, I think that has a caveat to it, because is not just the statute, the notary law gives you the general aspect of what notaries should be doing, what they are, and how you go about becoming a notary. However, there are some practical materials that give you more nuance on the practicality of it, on the implementation of those notary laws, and that's usually done in legal opinion pieces or in case law. So a lot of times I go and read those case laws, and I read those legal opinions in journals and what have you, to gain the nuance understanding on how to implement those statutes. Because a lot of times, again, those statutes are not written with one specific scenario or one specific circumstance in mind, right? They supposed to cover several aspects of, if you have a person that just have a one-page notarization request, right? Versus one person that needs in-person or remote certain notarial services. Or if you have a set of documents that are should be processed or executed in a specific manner. A one-page document that needs to be notarized might not necessarily undergo the same exact notarial treatment, even though the notarial, the notary duties, notarial acts are pretty concise across the states. You might treat a set of documents like as end of life documents, like estate planning documents, slightly different from a one pager document that you're notarizing, like doing a consent for a minor to travel. You might treat that differently from a power of attorney that typically includes witnesses to be part of that transaction. So those are nuances that a lot of times legal opinions give you a lot of insight on how to go about it.
Now, you also have to know what documents you can and can't do. I know we've spoken about this a lot of times. Certain states, they let you do certain documents. Other states, you can't do certain documents. For instance, we know that you are a notary in Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. You can do RON in New York and New Jersey. You can't do that in Connecticut, but you can do REN in Connecticut
And in New Jersey.
and in New Jersey. But like there's certain documents that you can do in these states that you can't do in New Jersey that you can't do in New York. And there's certain things that you can do in New Jersey that you can't do in Connecticut. So you also have to be knowledgeable in all of those states and in the laws on what you can and can't do. That you have to know those things because you don't want to get in trouble.
So that comes with taking the leap to becoming multi-commission. Most people, they just stick to one state, and that's their space that they excel in. But others like to expand their market by being able to expand their clientele. And that's by becoming commissioned in more than one state, where you can service New York, where you can service New Jersey, where you can service Connecticut. So, you have, it's all about your aptitude to excel in this space.
Now, the other thing is I just want to be clear, because some people will come in and listen to bits and pieces. I want to be clear, when you are doing the notarizations for that particular state, you have to be within that state's boundary.
That is a typical requirement, with some exceptions for those states that have what's the word? I can't even pronounce it right now.
If I'm doing a RON for New Jersey, I have to be sitting in New Jersey.
You definitely have to be situated in the state that you're commissioned to perform the notarial acts that you would in that specific state. So I'll give you an example. If I'm in New York, somebody wants a POA. I'm not authorized to notarize a document out of New York for powers of attorney. It doesn't matter if the power of attorney originates in New York, or if the power of attorney originates in New York and is going to be used out of state, or if the POA originates out of state and is going to be used out of state or used in New York. New York does not allow for a New York notary public to execute said document online. How can I still provide service? I can commute to situate myself in New Jersey as a commissioned notary there while executing said document, which that state does authorize me as a commissioned notary public out of New Jersey to be able to execute POAs electronically. And that's how I'm able to provide service for a remotely located individual.
Or you could call me.
Or we can utilize notaries within the community, because that's something that we all also do, that we try to you want to be able to provide service and in a smart way. If it's going to take too much out of you, if it's going to take too much of your time, or is going to have you incur expenses to be able to provide service, you might as well pass it on to somebody else that might not have to deal with the challenges of incurring additional expenses or those kind of things. So outsourcing to someone else is something that we typically advocate for in the community so that we can collaborate.
But I also know that for some states, they have a couple of states where they don't do remote online notarization. For example, California, so they can reach out to you to be able to help with their, if they have someone that needs something done, and that can be done remotely, but the person has to find out if the receiver will accept it signed remotely, correct?
Yeah, so that is a little bit of a challenge, because so the industry itself has to catch up to the new changes or the new evolutions that have occurred within the notary space, right? So as far as acceptance, if it's legal and it's authorized, it should be accepted. However, there are some preferences where certain institutions, certain public institutions and public and private institutions, they have a preference on whether the signature should be digital or it should be wet ink. So the one thing is that there are laws in most states that define what a signature is, and typically a signature would be defined to be equal, both a digital and a wet signature to be this one and the same when it comes down to the force and effect of said signature. So that education piece, as far as the intended receivers, they have to catch up in that aspect, as far as them understanding that they can accept digitally notarized documents, and that they can accept wet signatures that have been executed remotely. Because I did encounter that issue where New York agency, and I think that was the Social Security Administration for New York, they refused to accept a digital signature. So at that point, we provided an alternative. Well, we can do a remote ink signature notarization because the signer was out of the country. So they did not even want that. They did not want the signer to use a foreign notary, and they wanted the signer to basically buy a plane ticket anywhere in any state in the USA and get notarized by a notary public in the US. When a notary being situated in their commission state can very well legally and under the law perform a notarial act remotely without the person having to get on a plane. But they did not want that. They did not want to see the designation where a notary has to show and state that if the notarization was done remotely, that it was done using communication technology. Even though it was going to be a wet signature, they didn't want to see the communication technology aspect on that document. So that lady ended up buying a plane ticket to come to the United States to get notarized. And that defeats the purpose and the intent of the legislators enacting remote notarization laws in those states.
Yeah, because it's all about the convenience.
And it's all about being compliant while providing convenience, right? It's a form of still being able to say that this was done the correct way, even though it was done in a different manner. And that takes a little bit of educating. We're still doing that.
Right.
So, yes, I think that's good, right?
Yeah, we covered a lot of information, a lot of topics. We didn't go, totally in depth on step by step for the remote ink and like that, but we do got to save something for them to come to the one stop.
We're gonna have a lot of that. We're gonna talk about again. You gotta have credentials for remote online notarizations. We're gonna talk about that. We're also gonna not necessarily speak at length regarding cybersecurity insurance, but that's something that we're gonna tap into as well, because there are requirements, just how a notary has to maintain confidentiality and have safeguards for in-person traditional notarizations. A notary has to do the same for remote notarizations. We have to secure we have to be compliant and use resources and platforms that uphold that compliance and that confidentiality and that security of personal information for the parties involved. So that's something that we're going to be speaking about. We're going to learn about it.
And I know you gonna make sure you have your handouts ready and everything, because you don't play with your quizzes.
I like to know what people know as far like their preconceived notions, and then if we need to dispel those or we need to reaffirm those, that's what we're looking to do in this conference. In my workshop, we're looking to empower more notaries with the remote notarization aspect, because I tell you, most notaries were excited when their state announced that they were enacting remote notarization laws. But then a lot of that excitement went away when we were getting pushback from intended receivers, right?
Right.
So how can you go out there and begin to promote that you're doing remote online notarizations when almost always you're encountering people that are intended to receive the document saying that they don't want digital signatures, right? They want to stick with the wet signature, and that kind of forces you to go back to the traditional services, notary services that we've been providing. So it's all about scaling. It's all about elevating, evolving in the space. And I think that learning and educating a little bit more about the online aspect, using communication technology aspect, will definitely elevate services, you know, in the industry. And before you know it, the technology might kind of, you know, set us aside. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about, not maybe not in our immediate near future, but in the trajectory of the notary public office? Do you assume that maybe 100 years from now, they might not use a third party non-biased official like us?
Or we can't even say, because the way things going right now, they probably gonna be going to a robot. AI might be doing it. I know you don't want to hear that. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying I don't. Not that I don't want to hear it, but I'm aware that, you know, that there are so many untapped aspects of being a notary that is so ridiculous. And I tell you one thing, that ever since before I became a notary, ever since I became a notary, I have never really understood the how big of a deal being a notary public is, and how influential, how essential, and how crucial, specifically for discovery, right? How those things, the evidence of a notarial certificate can play a role in litigation and in many transactions, right? So notaries are needed. It's just how you submerge yourself into understanding everything that a notary can do, and then market yourself in that manner so that all of those aspects, you know, people can come across those aspects through the notary that's promoting. You know, like one of the things that I'm recently promoting is being a Rule 31 notary. And a Rule 31 notary is a whole different thing. And I think it's we're gonna leave that for another day. I'm not gonna bring it in, but it's something that also, Laura, let me kid you not, I had posted a while back ago, are states allowing notaries to be remote witnesses, right? So those are a challenge for many states, not all states, but many states. So let's say we get over the remote witnessing aspect, right? So then we can deal with the remote deposition aspect, which is something that kind of includes being a Rule 31 notary. So those things, if you can be a Rule 31 notary remotely, oh my goodness, come on, man. how that's just we're really talking about one-stop shop. We really talking about businesses in a box when it comes down to that. It doesn't get any better, and I still have more to uncover.
So I guess we're gonna get ready to wrap it up.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll be able to come back again and have Leland join us and go in even more in depth. Daniel, thank you for taking time out to come up and for us to be able to speak. And Misael, you know, and we'll be speaking later and more in depth about the one-stop shop business in a box. You have anything else to say to
I was giving her a quick call to
any other thing you wanted to say at the end, Daniel?
Well, the only thing I would say is I would encourage those that are thinking about it, just do it. Come join us. Come separate yourself from the rest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to see. Misael is trying to get Leland on the line. Because we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. I know.
all right, Leland.
So I want to thank you for allowing me to pick y'all brain and ask some questions and everything. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening. My name is Laura Montgomery, the owner of Ubiquitous Mobile Notary, dual commission in the state of New Jersey and the state of New York. And be looking out for us for the one-stop shop business in a box.
Daniel did his outro.
My name is Daniel Harris. I'm the owner of Rhode Island Fingerprinting. And I would like to see you January 3rd and 4th, 2026 via Zoom. And I'm out.
Yes, my name is Misael Montas, and I'm the managing member of SC Services, LLC, a tri-state notary out of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And do come see us January 3rd and the 4th, 2026, to the one-stop shop, businesses in a box.